Freedom is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
But I want to get the language right. The big government is in trouble.
You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, S.M. Gibson.
It is Thursday, February the 19th, 2015, and here we are with another edition of Anti-Media Radio with your host, S.M. Gibson, as joined in the studio with our wonderful producer, Mr. Shannon Madden. How you doing tonight?
Good evening, everybody. I'm doing great.
So that's, well, I tell you what, before we get into the top stories, I want to tell everybody a little tip I think would serve them well. I know we preach against Monsanto and some of the foods, but I believe everybody needs to start buying some stock. We got a little inside tip because the price is going up.
No, do tell.
I think people need to start buying into Kool-Aid stock because people are drinking it right and left.
Absolutely. Tropical Punch is my favorite.
Well, there you go, because people are drinking the Kool-Aid like it is, the lifeblood.
Yeah,
like it's the life force.
What happens after you drink that Kool-Aid, though?
Well, I think we're seeing the results of it all around the world. So buy that Kool-Aid stock because people are drinking it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like they're going to be stopping anytime soon. All right, let's get into the top stories. Another leak via Edward Snowden, Glenn Greenwald, The Intercept, Gemalto. They are the world's largest SIM card makers. And according to their own website, hilariously, they're the world leader in digital security. 2 billion SIM cards made annually for 450 wireless providers, including AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint. That's pretty much the four big boys right there.
Hang on, I'm looking up the on my T-Mobile phone some of the information on this. Wait a minute, it's crapping out on me right now. I can't explain this.
The NSA and the GCHQ, the Government Communications Headquarters, which is the United Kingdom UK version of the NSA, stole the encryption keys used to secure all the voice calls, voicemail, and text provided by Gemalto.
Stole.
Right, correct. Stole. So I don't think, finding out that we're being spied on via our cell phones and we have zero privacy is a big shock to you out there. But, it's more confirmation of what we already knew. We also have the United States and Turkey signed today a deal to train and arm more Syrian rebels.
Oh, yeah.
The funny part is the United States is saying that, we're only doing this to fight ISIS, whereas Turkey's like, yeah, maybe, but we could also be doing this because we want to go after al-Assad and the Syrian government. We'll just see how it works out.
Well, and we kind of touched on this last week about when any time that the United States funds any kind of rebellion in the Middle East, it always winds up backfiring, and you know, when the cycle runs its course, the United States always tends to, you know, tends to send military.
ISIS spawned out of the quote-unquote Syrian rebels. There's pictures of John McCain with members of ISIS that were Syrian rebels.
I wonder if anybody that listens to this program has ever really actually researched who Saddam Hussein was and how he got started and how he rose to prominence in the American government community. Much, you know, to the point where America was actually funding Iraq, and this was long before we actually went and wiped them out twice, that they were actually number 3 at one point in time in you know, governments worldwide that were being assisted by the United States for whatever reason. We were sent, they were number 3 at one point in time in our list of, you know, the billions of dollars that we pumped into their government and into their system, and for what reason and for what gain. And of course, you can see where the final result took us to.
Again, stocks and Kool-Aid are going up, so bye.
Bye.
We've got the 15-year-old in Quebec. We've got this story up on the antimedia.org right now. She was strip searched. Her school thought she had drugs on her, so they strip searched a 15-year-old girl. Turns out, guess what? She didn't. The worst part is, instead of the school issuing an apology, saying, "Oh no, we shouldn't have done that," they doubled down, and they were like, "Yeah, that's pretty good. You know, we did the right thing. We do it again."
The right thing.
It was respectful. The term they use is it was respectful.
Yeah.
They respectfully strip searched a 15-year-old girl.
We used all of the guidelines that we wrote ourselves to make sure that we wouldn't didn't go over the line. And we looked at the guidelines we wrote, and during the whole time, and we never went over the line. The guidelines that we wrote. So I mean, you know.
Oh yeah, well, you know, that's how it works. When you write the rules, you can, you know, if you're breaking the own rules you write, then there's a real problem.
Absolutely.
So good for them. They didn't break the rules they wrote. You've got right now, and you've got the ceasefire in Ukraine, which is not a ceasefire. It's still been continuously happening. NATO is getting heavily involved. They've already been heavily involved. The U.S. is covertly pushing aggressions there as well, and really more of the Baltic states throughout the entire region of Eastern Europe.
You want me to go ahead and give you a spoiler alert real quick? Where you know where this ends? Who has more money, or who has more economic interest that people can glean off of?
Right, and
that is who your winner of this war is going to be. Go ahead and mark that down and bet the farm on that.
And two, it's. I thought this was a funny quote. We've got a. And here's the deal, too, as far as Russia goes. Look, all governments are lying, okay? It's not like, oh, Russia's telling the truth in the United States. It's lying. Look, all governments lie. And this is not, in defense of anybody. I just thought this quote was very hysterical. It was from a German general, and he was the foreign relations head of the Russian Ministry of Defense as well. He said earlier this month, talking about the entire situation over there, apparently the officials of the European Union and U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry have dedicated themselves and continue to do so to deeply and thoroughly studying the doctrine of Dr. Goebbels. They present everything backwards from reality. It is one of the formulas which Nazi propaganda employed most successfully. They accuse the party that is defending itself of aggression. So, that's not to say that Russia is not lying to people. I think all these governments lie to people. But for someone to actually call, John Kerry and the entire situation and say that they're following the practices of Joseph Goebbels, I think it's hilarious, because I think we see it in our everyday lives that they do that.
Absolutely.
I mean, the propaganda machine is in full effect.
Yeah, well, and again, America employs the same tactics and experiments daily.
Oh, absolutely.
Daily.
Speaking of the propaganda machine, there's another story we've got running on the antimedia.org right now, which it was written in light of comments recently made by a Pakistani general, but it talks about Osama bin Laden had been dead far prior to the May 2011 raid, which
No, man, there's no way that happened. Are you serious?
you know, it is quite ironic that the New York Times, Fox News, the president of Pakistan,
with respect at sea, where nobody could see it.
Speaking of,
nobody could mourn over his dead body. We just went ahead and ushered it out to sea, and we even said a Muslim prayer, even though we're not a Muslim government, and we're totally anti-Muslim. We went ahead and said the Muslim prayer as we watched his body float out to sea, and there were seagulls that formed the shape of a heart. It was great. Have you seen Zero Dark 30? That is a great film, man.
It's funny, you were talking about Saddam Hussein, and when Saddam Hussein got killed, they just showed his lifeless body hanging on national TV around the world. They show his dead body on TV. Saddam Hussein, that did not attack the United States, according to them, Osama bin Laden was behind 9/11. All these countries, for the most part, were like, that was terrible. Everybody go get this guy, because he was behind this horrendous attack. But you killed this guy, we have to be respectful. You're not going to see his dead body. But when Saddam Hussein's killed, we show his dead body on TV.
Billions of American dollars
were spent
to grab him up and hang him from the highest cross for the whole entire world to see.
Mm-hmm.
And you mean to tell me that we snuck in this guy's house in the middle of the night, shot him, and then drug him out on a boat as the sun was rising up where no one could see and threw his body into the sea? Are you kidding me?
That's what they say.
Are you serious?
That's the story.
That's what was in the movie, and it was in a movie.
That's
real.
Well,
I mean, that really happened. It was in a movie.
And here's the thing, because
Hollywood made that movie. It's real.
That I believe it. Then, if it was in Hollywood, then I totally believe it. The thing about his actual death, you don't know what happened because there's so many varied reports, and some of it is being put out there as misinformation because the Pakistani general referred to him dying in 2005. You've got Israeli intelligence that came out at the beginning of 2002 and said he died in December of 2001. There's more reports of him dying in December of 2001 than there are any reports of him dying at any point across.
Smack very shortly after September 2011.
It is, and they were all.
Excuse me. 9/11 in 2001.
Again, Fox News reported, New York Times reported, the president of Pakistan said it via CNN, by the way, so it was on CNN as well, that he had died of a disease, and you get kidney disease, you hear lung, whatever, you hear different illnesses. There was actually a funeral notice in an Egyptian newspaper that talked about 10 days after his death, that talked about that entire situation, and that, again, was for December 2001. So you don't know. I wasn't there, but at the same time, the stories that you hear, to me, mean about as much as the government telling me a story.
Well, we also know that when the government says they're going after somebody and then they get their man, that it is going to make 60 Minutes and CNN and Fox News and all of these other many news organizations are going to be there with cameras pointed straight at the perpetrator and seeing him crawl out of the hole and see him go to jail and then see him, kind of wash himself off, in a Pontius Pilate kind of move, and then he'll go to court to see his day in court and give the court the big middle finger, and then you know what I'm saying.
And let's think about it like this:
all of this Hollywood, because even that in and of itself sells.
And Bin Laden was more valuable. Bin Laden was more valuable alive than he was dead because it gave everybody an excuse.
Absolutely.
So we have a caller in from area code 224. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. How you doing this evening?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic. What would you like to talk about tonight? Looks like we had a caller drop. He's welcome to call back in. But speaking of, Bin Laden, he was more valuable alive. Because let's say that all the attention of him dying in 2001 in December, I say that is true. Then all of a sudden, what excuse do we have to go overseas? You know,
Well, look, let me just give you one quick example, and this is not even political. You know how much? You know who made a whole lot of money for the news networks and even the networks as a whole back in the '90s? O.J. Simpson. When that trial was being run, up to when they went and had the long, drawn-out, slow chase down the highway, all the way up to when they finally declared a not guilty verdict, and people have their own opinions about that. All of that whole long, drawn-out trial, which could have easily happened with Osama bin Laden or even Saddam Hussein had, the networks got a little bit more involved in that situation, the verdict was still going to be the same. Come on now.
Right.
He was an employee that was let go.
He was, and I'm telling you, I know this for a fact that Osama bin Laden was 100% in Florida in the late 70s, and he was being trained by us, and it was during the Cold War, and that's like we were talking about with Hussein. He was a good guy then, and then he turned, quote-unquote, bad. All right, area code 626, welcome to Anti-Media Radio. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good, and you?
Doing good. What would you like to talk about tonight?
Well, I have no idea. This is my first time calling here. I don't even know what it's really about.
I like it. Come on.
I follow the page and all, but yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we're just talking about basically the whole state of the world right now and the foreign policy and where we're going down the road with ISIS and kind of the backstory of what's led us up to that point. What are your thoughts right now on the U.S. involvement overseas?
They've always done it, and they always had excuses to do it. They just want control, like always.
Exactly. So what do you think is the solution? Do you think there is a solution?
There are a few different solutions, depending on which views you see it in. For starters, I would think that the reason they have the whole ISIS thing going down, the U.S. going to Africa for supposedly measles and Ebola and all that, is because the U.S. doesn't have any money, any gold at all to offer since 1936, I think. So since they don't have any gold, no one wants to trade with them because they say, oh yeah, we'll offer you this much money, but what's your money backed by? It's not backed by anything. So they say no, and then they want to start a war because they want what they can't have because they can't even afford it.
Absolutely. Yeah, the U.S. has been broke for a long time, and what little shred of the economy we had left, Nixon did away with in the very early 70s, speaking with the gold and that whole thing. But it really started back in 1913, I guess, with the creation of the IRS and the Federal Reserve both in the same year.
But let's blow a mind for a minute, all right? Let's blow some minds for a minute. Why is gold worth anything?
It's a commodity worth trading.
Yeah, but why is it worth trading?
All right, the reason gold was made was, well, I don't know what your views are on spirituality and all that stuff. So I don't know, but I could just say that the money was made for evil control. The way I think it should have worked was trading product for product. But apparently people wanted to do money because they can actually possess more money and they can own more. But then the thing about money is they can print money out of thin air, which gives people that are rich or the banking systems, the banks, the power to create as much money as they want. And they get to put interest on anything they want. They get to charge for debt. They get to put up the prices on certain items. They get to lower the prices on certain items. And they get to inflate the government however they want. They control everything. So that's the whole reason why money was invented. Try to play it off as saying money was invented for people to be more like an easier way to trade, but in reality it wasn't made for that reason. It was more made for control than anything.
Absolutely.
If they can control the money, they can tell people, all right, yo, it's this much money, you have to pay this much every month. Now they make them as slaves, but the people don't think they're slaves because they have a little bit of freedom and they can go to the store, they can go to clubs, they can do whatever it is that makes them feel comfortable or distracts them a little bit. And it puts them back to the hole where they have to work for the money, and they're back like slaves. Slaves need to work for a place to live and for money.
That's exactly.
And for food. And that's what we're doing.
That's a brilliant definition. I love that.
Yeah, that is fantastic because you look at, we've been broke for a long time, and, people talk about this conspiracy or that conspiracy. The real conspiracy is right in front of your face, is the banking system is controlling everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know how that would even be labeled conspiracy. That's just reality, and anybody that doesn't acknowledge that, it's really sad.
It's a conspiracy because it's something that nobody wants to talk about.
It's something nobody wants to talk about, but it's the reality. I mean, if you look at Mitt Romney in the last election, his top 5 contributors were all major banks.
Yeah.
So they're funding every side. The banks funded both sides of World War II. You know, they're always leveraging to make sure that they're not going to lose their control and their power.
Absolutely.
And that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, another way they're doing it is by, well, obviously propaganda and stuff, like what happened with Germany, Nazi Germany. They told people that they were going broke, and they tried to blame someone. But before they blamed someone, they had to take away the guns, and they had to take away rights from the people, so they wouldn't be able to fight back. And that's what's going on again. It has to do with the money. We're becoming broke, but the government doesn't want us to know. So once we reach that point where we become broke, they're going to make it a military state, which is already happening, because the only people that are going to have money much is the military. And all what they're doing, I don't know. There's a lot that plays into it. Basically, what I see happening is going to be the whole Nazi thing going on again. They're trying to take our gun rights away, too. We're broke. Other governments are trying to step in here, so they're going to try to have a war. They're going to try to blame someone. They're going to try to take the guns away so that people can't fight the government. So the reason that the military, army bases are, let's say you're from California, you go to the army, they try to state you in Nevada, Florida, or somewhere else, is because, let's say an outbreak happens in California. The people that are stationed in California are not from California, so they're going to fight against people in California, knowing they have no one in California.
Right. Exactly. Well, I tell you what, thank you so much for your call this evening. Absolutely great caller and brilliant points.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know.
Okay, we have another caller calling in from area code 425. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. What would you like to talk about this evening? You there?
Yeah. I thought this was a radio.
Yeah, what would you like to talk about?
I have no idea. I'm sorry. I'm just getting into this kind of stuff.
Oh, fair enough, man. No problem. So what are your thoughts on what's going on around the world today and the United States and the involvement overseas? How do you see all that playing out?
I just feel like the United States is kind of screwing us and turning us into slaves slowly. And yeah, I just don't want to be here when something goes down and the martial law comes in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but at the same time, though, why wouldn't you want to be here when it all goes down? I mean, this is when civilizations are able to actually make their mark on history. And what we're seeing right now, we're actually at that tipping point. We are slowly approaching. Actually, I can't even say slowly anymore because we're talking about it and everyone knows about it. And even you, right, who have kind of stumbled into this, are realizing that something's wrong, something is not right, and you need to go and seek out, instead of all of the information that's been crammed into your ears and crammed down your throat, you need to seek out something else that is a little bit closer to the truth and closer to reality instead of the reality that people are making for you. And I totally get that, and I totally understand that. But, at the same time, what are you going to do when it all comes down?
I don't know. Just buy a bunch of guns and live under the ground or something.
Yeah, but at the same time, what are a bunch of guns going to do?
Right. You? See, I think this is a point that a lot of people have missed as they look at different revolutions throughout the history of the world, and I think that they feel like for a revolution to transpire is that you have to just be loaded up with guns and, we're just going to do this and blah, blah, blah.
We were into the 1700s. That would be a great idea.
Right. And, I don't believe that. I think the revolution has already started. And I believe that the revolution this time around is an intellectual revolution. It is a revolution within our souls. And I think we're in the midst of it right now. And we're not going to see, bloodshed. And, there could be instances where we see it. I think we've already seen it around the world. I say there's not going to be bloodshed. I mean, we're seeing it around the world. But I think the true revolution is a revolution of intellect. And it comes from within ourselves, and it comes with people coming together.
Well, we need to go ahead and clarify right now. Even if you do have a bunch of guns and that makes you feel better and you think you're going to be better prepared because you have a bunch of guns, hey, more power to you. The Second Amendment allows you that freedom.
It does.
No two ways around it. But at the same time, if you've done your homework and you've done your research, the United States government has a lot more toys than just a bunch of little pop guns. You can shoot an automatic weapon in a radius so many times, and eventually you're going to run out of rounds.
Look, Waco had a bunch of weapons, and what happened?
Man,
they ran a
had
tank.
a whole basement full of weapons.
Right, and they ran a tank through the side. So when the government wants to put you down, you can have all the weapons you want.
Absolutely.
Weapons is not what's going to win this war that we're in.
The only weapon that you can have is a sharp mind, and that is the only weapon that's going to make any difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, any more thoughts you've got for us tonight?
What's that?
Any more thoughts? Any more comments you have?
I just want to say I think the government is shit, and I just want to know how would I research stuff like this?
I think your best bet would be to go ahead and get online and different resources. Don't just look at the antimedia.org, which is what we're through, but look at, there's multiple sources. The Mint Press News is a good source. There was a page put out the other day of the top 10 best alternative sites.
Oh, gosh, we were going to bring that up.
Yeah.
And check this link out. It actually comes from the Pontiac Tribune. And it actually, and I hate to do a little bit of chest swelling here, but the antimedia.org was named as one of the 10 news outlets corporate media doesn't want you to follow by the Pontiac Tribune. We really thank you for that. That's an awesome, awesome article.
But yeah, I mean, there's just so many sites. But
start there. It has the other 9 too. You can start there and
do your own research with all the different pages and all the different information, and take all the information for what you will, and then make your own opinions from it. But we're not telling you to just take this one site, even our site, as the absolute truth. We want everybody out there to think critically and think on their own.
All right, cool. Thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. You have a good evening.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
All right, we have another caller calling in from area code 323. Looks like we dropped that call, but they're more than welcome to call back in. So, yeah, 2 good calls there. I tell you another story I would love to hit on real fast just because I thought it was hilarious. You can't say this in the United States. Benjamin Netanyahu got caught lying.
No, he did.
It's really funny. But they had like this celebrity home designer over in Israel, and it was for Israel's channel 10 TV. And he went over there, and his wife Sarah was given a tour of their home, and it was like they were trying to point out, and it was a big political stunt, obviously, how modest we live. And you see it, I mean, it looks pretty crappy. Like they live in, you would not expect where Benjamin Netanyahu live at all. It's like, oh, wow. Well, guess what? Turns out the house they gave the tour of was not his house.
Whose was it?
It's where the servants live.
Oh, no, not Mamie.
That's what it was.
Oh, great.
It's where Benjamin Netanyahu's servants live, not Benjamin Netanyahu. And so he's kind of got caught with, mud on his face and looks kind of silly.
Why would you want to do that?
Well, it was a big political stunt, but it didn't work out.
But at the same time, why would you want to do that?
Well, he's trying to make people, sympathize towards how modest he lives. Look, I'm a great guy. I live just like you do. I live in squalor.
Yeah.
But apparently, servants apparently live in squalor, if that makes anybody feel better, and they showed that off for everybody to see, but
I'll take y'all to where I used to live in an apartment when I was 19. I'll show you the squalor.
He apparently does not. Also about Netanyahu, and we touched on this last week a little bit. You know, people don't realize 90% of his campaign funds, 90% come from the United States of America.
And interestingly enough, you know, there was a vast majority of it that came from 4 members of one family.
Yeah.
Here in America.
There's a family in Florida that owns the duty-free stuff or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like 3-4 families that really were behind the whole thing. But, you know, that goes to show you Netanyahu is nothing but a puppet of the United States. And he's just an extension of United States policies when 90% of his funding comes from over here. Now, I don't know Israeli campaign finance reform laws and all that goes, but that's amazing that 90% of the money comes from outside of the country. Because people get so, you know, I heard so many Republicans that were so furious at the money that was raised for Obama that came from overseas. I know, you know, I know for a fact Gaddafi was trying to get people to give him money. And there were just people so mad, how dare this happen? Well, everybody's beloved Israel. Is it any different, you know, when the money comes from us? Or do you think, well, because we're the good guys, that's okay that the money's coming from outside of their own country? Look, we're not Israel. That's their own business. They should do their own thing. Like, I'll say this, Michael Bloomberg in New York. Not a fan of Michael Bloomberg at all.
Yeah.
But the guy's a billionaire. When he ran, guess what? He raised zero money for his election to be the mayor of New York.
Yeah.
Because he was just so rich, he could just spend whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
But he didn't raise money. It's like, at least it's like there's a rich guy just funding himself, and he's not like squandering off of somebody else.
Ross Perot? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, I don't agree with Michael Bloomberg at all, but
I don't agree with Ross Perot, but I mean, you know,
you
gotta
can't
give it to the guy.
You can't financially say this guy's somebody's puppet. He's just an idiot on his own accord. It's like, well done. You're your own idiot.
Absolutely.
But with so many of these politicians, you can link back and see the puppet strings coming back from their financial contributions.
Absolutely.
And you see it here. Like I said earlier about Mitt Romney, his 5 top contributors were all from banks. Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, I believe, is number 1, number 2. Just absolutely ridiculous stuff. But, you know, we're getting around to another election cycle. It's funny, meme we had go up earlier was a quote from Russell Brand, and think whatever you want from Russell Brand, the quote rings true, is that, you know, and we've talked about this, I can tell you who's going to win the next presidential election. 100%, I guarantee it. It's the person that runs that has the most money. And the reason I can guarantee that is because in the history of the United States of America...
Jeb Bush!
And that's what's scary, yeah.
Sorry about
Jeb
that.
Bush.
I have a little bit of a cough. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeb Bush scares me because I really believe there's going to be a lot of money behind that guy.
Absolutely. I mean, there's always been a lot of money behind the Bush family. Come on now.
And you know, Hillary burned herself.
Yeah.
Hillary burned herself. There's a documentary out there.
There's a lot of money behind Hillary, but it's not the right money that's going to get.
It's not the money that's going to get her elected.
The dark evil hole that is the American president right now.
There is a documentary out there. I very interested. You know, aside from politics and everything that's going on in the world, very big music fan, and I like watching documentaries on music people and just the whole industry. And there's a documentary about David Geffen, and he kind of helped Nirvana, if that kind of links him to people. Yeah, but he's been around for years and years and years, way before Nirvana.
Weezer, come on now.
But there's a documentary about David Geffen, if anybody wants to check it out. And it's all about the music, but at the very end, it talks about when he became a billionaire, with a B, billionaire.
Yeah. And
he's part owner of DreamWorks with Steven Spielberg, and he was a huge contributor to the Clintons. Loved the Clintons. And David Geffen's also gay. When the Clintons, or I say the Clintons, Bill Clinton implemented Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Oh, he was not happy. He's like, wow, you told me you were going to do something, and you went and did something else, and I gave you a bunch of money. So he's in this documentary, which, is not a political documentary at all. This is just a guy talking about his life.
Yeah.
And he talks about when Hillary ran in 2007, I guess it was, because she never really, I guess she was hung around a little bit beginning of 2008. But he said, as long as I'm alive, and this is a billionaire talking, he goes, as long as I'm alive, she will never become president of the United States. And guess what he did? He gave bukus of money to Barack Obama. I'm not even sure if he was a big fan of Barack Obama, but he was definitely hated Hillary Clinton that much. He was going to make sure that whoever ran against her was going to beat her. Yeah. And so these people, the Clintons have burned so many bridges and so many people throughout the years. If Hillary is the nominee, she's never going to win. It's never going to happen. It has nothing to do with her being a woman. Has nothing to do with anything like that. It's her and her husband have just burned very, very powerful people because these powerful people have money. They've just burned them through the years. She's never going to be president. The next president will be a Republican. And then it's who you're left with. Yeah. Are you left with Jeb Bush? That's terrifying.
Yeah, that's kind of what...
He came out this week trying to distance himself from his brother.
Absolutely. Who wouldn't? Come on, man. Are you serious?
He tried to distance himself.
Even his own vice president tried to distance himself from the president. Come on now.
Well, his own vice president was the one that should have been the one distanced away from. W should have been like, look, I really wasn't... I was just there. Daddy put me in charge, but Dick was doing all that stuff.
With no heartbeat and whatnot.
Yeah.
The man had no heart.
Well,
he had no heart, literally. He was on record with science and facts and figures that he had no heartbeat for a long period of time while he served as the Vice President of the United States. I think that's a world record, isn't it?
Well, I can't imagine, as many people in United States politics that I just can't stand, and there's a long, long, long list of them. Dick Cheney is probably, at least people that are alive today, at the top of my list.
Yeah, whatever. He had no heart.
He shot a guy in the face.
That is like, I mean, seriously, and had no heartbeat when he did it. And looked at him and said, and brushed his head and said it will be okay after he shot him in his lap.
Yeah, I mean,
and didn't care one way or the other.
And you know what's so funny is you get caught.
He had a story straight either way.
And you get these stories on the internet like there really were weapons of mass destruction. Well, we admit whatever.
Yeah,
listen, if
he had no heartbeat.
That
is
there were weapons
dude.
of mass.
Come on now.
Any weapons that they had were sold to them by the CIA, and everybody knows it. But that's a different topic. But if there were weapons over there, let's get realistic. The Bush administration, if there would have been any weapons that they would have found, what reason would they have not disclosed that to the American people at the time? Why would they have all committed political suicide by not acknowledging that there were weapons? Because if there would have been a shred of anything, and you say, well, they weren't going to lie to us. They lied to you in the first place.
Well, and they also condemned Iraq for the use of chemical weapons, but they condoned it as long as those chemical weapons were being used against Iran.
Absolutely.
In Iranian fashion.
Absolutely. So, it's all about who's using these certain weapons. It's going on in Syria right now. Yeah. It's the he said, she said game. Well, with the president outside.
Because America.
Is he using them? Oh, wait, no.
But America has never used chemical weapons, Agent Orange. Never used
Vietnam, no, that never happened. We never went to Vietnam.
Never.
We didn't. And we didn't.
We did, but I mean, it was for, we never used chemical weapons there, Agent Orange.
No, we went over. We went over to Vietnam, and we just said we gave a bunch of people high fives and patted them on the back. There were no chemical weapons. Our soldiers did not come back from Vietnam as screwed up as the many people we killed. We didn't throw them to the curb like we've done over in this situation. That's why you can't turn on your TV and not see a Wounded Warrior commercial every 5 seconds. Yeah. And you know what? You should. It's not saying that, these troops shouldn't be supported. They should. But to really support the troops, they shouldn't have been sent in these situations to begin with at all. Like, that's the thing that people don't get. You got to support the troops. You got to support the troops. No, the people that say that don't support the troops. They support a blind ideology. If you really supported the troops, you'd say, hey, I don't want these people getting shot at for absolutely zero reason.
Absolutely.
That's supporting the troops, if you ask me.
Yeah.
That's supporting them. Hey, I don't want them to get shot at.
That's freaking awesome, man. That's probably one of the best things you've said on this broadcast.
Well, I'm always an idiot, so don't worry about that. I'll continue being an idiot. But I just don't get this correlation of people saying you got to support this and you got to support that. We were talking about when people come to this realization, has lied to them about multiple things earlier, and we equated it with parents. You know, you love your parents to death, and then you realize there's no Santa Claus, and your parents had lied to you.
Yeah, you can't use the analogy I said off air though, because that was pretty.
Right, but also I thought too, back to the Charles Ramsey story, the guy, with his neighbor and dead giveaway for anybody who don't know who Charles Ramsey is, the meme, dead giveaway, that whole thing. And he's like, I ate ribs with that dude. I listened to salsa music with that dude. Yeah. It's like he's your neighbor, you knew him, he's there, he's cool, and the next thing you know, you find out he's got like kids locked up in his basement. Yeah. That's what the government's done. It's like you've seen them there. You go to the football game. You sing the Star Spangled Banner. You salute the flag, and you find out they've got kids locked in the basement. And you don't know what to do with. You don't know how to process that information.
Oh, there's 18 bodies in the crawl space. One of the two.
Right.
Well, he was so quiet. He was so unassuming.
Right.
I never knew. And even then, when you make those statements, it's still in complete shock that I can't believe that this could actually happen. I can't believe that my government would actually do these things towards me or to, subjugate me into the situation that I'm at now and keep me here.
But they said we were the good guys.
Always.
Yeah.
When Reagan quoted "Born in the USA" and Springsteen was shaking his head.
Listen, I don't care about Bruce Springsteen's politics, but we're not going to talk about the boss here on the air. He's the boss for a reason. Go listen to Nebraska if you don't believe it.
Amen.
But, I mean, this all cuts back to, like, the government would never do this. We started the show off, and the top of the news was talking about how the NSA and the UK collectively just stole everybody's, phone records. Whatever, no big deal.
Yeah, but I mean, is that any worse than the United States and purposely embedding all this software and hardware into Toshiba computers and to Samsung products and so on and so forth to glean all the information that they could, all the information, all the little, small little piddly things that we were doing either in the house or out in the field or emailing or texting this person or this, that, and the other, all the information that they put together. Why were they gleaning that information, and what did they hope to glean out of it?
Well, I tell you what. I want to go ahead and, in regards to that, Sean Hannity was on earlier. I know.
Man, come on, dude.
I tell you,
you're killing my buzz.
I watch it. I don't watch it every night, but I watch it especially before the radio show because it's like watching wrestling to me. It makes me so angry. It's like this guy's so off his head.
It really is.
It really gets me stirred up.
Wrestling ball 3.5.
It really stirs me up. So I enjoy knowing what I'm going against. Like, that's the enemy. I like to know where my enemy's coming from, basically. And he's just on about how the Obama this, Obama that. How dare you not say it's this kind of terrorism? How dare he? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And I'm no fan of Barack Obama, but it's like the things this guy picks is ludicrous. Like, there are lots of things to talk about Obama, and this goes back to the point you made. He doesn't mention something we can get Obama on. Barack Obama said, the bottom line is that people around the world, regardless of their nationality, should know that the United States is not spying on ordinary people who don't threaten our national security. and that we take their privacy concerns into account in our policies and our procedures.
Drop the mic, horns up.
Exactly.
Obama out.
Yeah, and guess what? That's all a giant lie. Barack Obama looked at the world, spoke to the residents of the world, referring to all of them, lying to their face. If Sean Hannity wants to get on there and call Obama for saying that, I'm with him. High five, Silver Cloth.
Yeah.
But you know what? He talks about stupid things that cause division for no reason, when we should all be coming together. That he just wants to cause. He didn't call them the right kind of terrorists. He won't call them Muslim extremists.
I'm going to correct you right now.
He's an
that
idiot.
Division is definitely for a reason.
Oh, well, I know.
Division is definitely for a reason.
Absolutely. But look, Obama said, we're not spying on ordinary people. Well, guess what? Gemalto, SIM cards, it's happening. There's facts. There's proof.
Well, he can claim in his memoir, when he makes that other $10 million he's going to make when he makes another book when he gets out of office, that he had no idea about that going on.
And that's what'll happen.
But he found out after the fact, and he reprimanded a few people, and his legacy is intact. Yeah, good for him. He's a spokesperson. He has absolutely no power. He's never had any power since he's been, quote unquote, in power. This is
and
all,
I think that's the
this
truth.
All coming,
yeah.
Absolutely. And if you thought that George W. Bush had any power in America at any point in time, you are sadly mistaken. You are sadly mistaken. And when our next president, who I unfortunately, and I really hate it, and I hope and pray that every person that listens to this broadcast goes out and actually votes, and they actually inform themselves of this bull crap two-party system that we're involved in and we're wrapped up in right now, and goes out and selects, honest to God, real candidates. Nick's calling in. Uncle Nick, tell us some truth. Come on now.
Nick Burnaby, the founder and our host on Monday and Wednesday nights. How you doing, Nick? You there, sir? Oh, Nick's just being a tease tonight.
Nick's there. He's so there.
He's being a tease. He can call back in. But, so, yeah, absolutely. It's just this, you say vote, but really, I'm not telling people not to vote. I'm not.
Yeah, but your vote is pretty much useless at this point. It really
what point?
Is.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing is rigged from the moment go.
Yes. And that's what people are not catching, is that voting is not really what needs to happen to change this country. And I'm not suggesting people don't vote. I'm just saying, what evidence do we have that voting does change anything? Because, look, we've got, Bush and Gore in 2000. And guess, Gore won. Nick, you there, buddy? No, he's not there. Nick, if you're listening, you call in. We're trying to get you. But, what difference has the voting made? Because you can go back to 1960 and look at Nixon and Kennedy, and it was rigged.
Absolutely.
So, and this is stuff that's all on record. None of this is up in the air. It's on record that Gore won. He got the most votes.
Oh, hands down. I mean, it wasn't even close.
So, why... It really, truly has the person with the most money has won every presidential election ever. Why are we even bothering with the system as it is right now? The Electoral College is the biggest joke in the world. Because there have been certain elections, I'm not going to sit here and lie. There have been certain elections that I did not vote in. You know why I didn't vote in them? Because of the Electoral College, as far as for the president goes. And the reason that is, the reason I didn't vote for president, first off, I wouldn't have voted for either one of them anyway. But not only would I have not voted for either one of them, it was like my vote's not going to count Because if you live in the South, your vote's going to go to Republican. When I lived up in Seattle, your vote was going to go to Obama. You know, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It didn't matter which way I voted. I could have voted for myself. I could have voted for Bear Bryant. I could have voted for Ron Paul. It wouldn't have mattered. My vote was going to go to wherever the state carried.
My vote is always going towards Bear Bryant.
Amen.
Roll Tide.
Nick, you there, brother? Nah, we're still having difficulties.
Yeah, I'm here, man. How's it going?
Hello, Nick.
What's up, man?
Sorry, I don't know. Something was going on with our computer. It wasn't working. Hold on one sec.
I say, man, they're getting in on us.
You got the Gemalto SIM card?
Hey, sorry. We had for some reason, there's something going on with my computer, but we're just chilling right here. Cassius actually just got to San Diego. We're chilling here in the studio right now.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, Nick, hold on 1 second. Area code 205. Welcome to Anti-Media Radio. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. What would you like to talk about?
About the voting. What y'all talking about the voting?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, it kind of is at the I agree that at the federal level, it is kind of pointless, but I think that still at the state and local level, that it can still make a difference nationally, or at least, like I said, at the state and local level.
In your community, more or less, not at the federal level, but right.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. We got a guy like if a guy like Jesse Ventura can become a governor of a state, you know,
right?
I think that we can. I think that throughout the whole nation and statewide, that we can make a difference in our own communities rather than at the federal level. I think that if we all started to get more involved locally and on a state level basis, that eventually the whole country would, you know, start to see eye to eye. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. I mean, me having traveled to different parts of the country, there's so many. You're obviously here in the central Alabama area with us.
Yeah, I'm Shannon's brother.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic! Cool. But you know as well as I do that you're ingrained in a certain kind of politics in this area of the country.
Yeah.
And if you go out to the West Coast, you're going to be involved in another kind of politics. You've got Barbara Boxer over there getting elected, which is just insane. But that's the whole different. Yeah. That's the other end of the spectrum of the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And it's just they're playing off the politics of each other. When in reality, it should be people coming together and getting rid of, you know, the mask, which is the two-party system.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, I agree with you, man. I don't know, man. If you can have, I mean, I don't want to get too into something, but if you look at certain leaders that have been elected throughout the nation for different states, and you know their backgrounds and how they were raised. I mean, look at like. I think it's funny, and I think it's interesting that most of our media comes from some of the, I guess you can say, some of the unfreest parts of the nation, like California or New York. I mean,
but with regard to certain laws, they have more freedom than we do in the South. It all depends on what law you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just don't know. I really think that if people got out more and started to educate each other more, that we could make a difference to a point that maybe we could get it to the federal level.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. Nick, you got Cassius there with you.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Cassius, what's going on? How you doing?
I'm great, man. Just got here from Sacramento.
Fantastic. You enjoying San Diego?
Hell yeah. Hella palm trees, man. Those palm trees.
Good times.
So what y'all got playing? What y'all got going on for everybody?
Well, we're just
gonna be hanging out for a few days, just getting some work done, figuring out some stuff as far as what we're gonna be doing with the anti-media. A few other people are coming down from LA that are gonna come meet up with us later this weekend, and we're just gonna be, figuring out how we're gonna go about, helping to facilitate this movement. The changing of the world. That's what we're trying to do, I guess you could say, and. Now is a better time than ever. 2015, I think, really is the time for solutions, man. I think people are ready to move forward. As the caller was mentioning, man, at the community level, I think is the best, the best route to go. What do you think, Cassius?
Exactly, man. I think that corruption is it's hard for corruption to grow on such a community basis like that. And I don't believe in a state government. I don't think that could work as well as a community level thing, because everyone can have more control over it in a community, but that also involves people actually actively taking part in making their community what it is. So in different communities it would work out differently, but I think that in general it should be left up to the community. So in 2015 we learned things in 2014, and things happened that changed our perception. And I think 2015 is the year that we crystallized what we learned in 2014, and we finally put some of this stuff to use and just, take action. 2014 was the year of learning.
See, you're doing better than I am, Cassius. I tell you what, today's Thursday. I take what I learned on Thursday morning and try to apply it to Thursday night, and wake up Friday and move on and go from there. So you're holding a lot more information in than I am.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is what we gotta do. We gotta change shit. Otherwise, we've talked about this multiple times. We're on a time limit. Sooner or later, we're gonna have a complete technocratic fascist state, man, and it's gonna be run by RoboCops and drones and just a few guys giving the orders to all these robots. I mean, we think it's bad now where we got actual human beings that are still cops. Think about when they're all RoboCops with no conscience. That's the future that we have to,
DARPA.
We gotta make the changes now before in 5 or 10 years we could face a very dystopian type of situation.
I think Shannon just did make a good point. There already are RoboCops.
I think we already have the RoboCops with no conscience right now.
Yeah, they may have skin and been born to parents,
and
but
I'm
they're
not,
acting
I'm not
in the same
telling,
way.
I'm not telling everybody that is the case with every single person that serves in our police force right now. But come on now, we've reported on it quite a bit. There have been so many other anecdotes of the police state that we live in now. Come on.
Here's the reason people are scared of technology and robots, and like you're talking about RoboCops and drones, is they're scared of something without a soul being able to attack them. Well, what happens when there's people in your own community that attack you and don't have a soul?
What about
the people become just as dangerous as robots?
And what about people that have been put into a military situation, the military training,
that become robots,
that are the government's robots or the local government's robots?
Yeah.
To go ahead and serve their will.
And then unfortunately you're getting the people with a conscience coming back, and now we're having 22 veterans a day killing themselves.
Absolutely.
Because they do have a conscience. Absolutely. But I tell you what, gentlemen, Cassius, man, hope you have a fantastic time in San Diego.
For sure, man.
I know Nick's going to treat you good out there.
Cassius was telling me that in his area where he's at, the cops won't even go in there, man. So there's places where the cops just don't go, and the people there just protect themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been here, haven't you? Yeah, Nick's been here. Yeah.
Those violent parts of where we live, trust me. Yeah.
There's not
that all
cops in North Highlands, North Sacramento, Del Paso Heights, Antelope. Yeah, there's some areas that the cops just don't go to in Northern California, Stockton, Oakland, Sacramento. That's a good thing. But the communities there aren't, developed like...
Absolutely. Cassius, listen. Have a good trip.
Go and let it blow through the I'ma let them know, no, through the stereo. Yo, here we go,